Hello everybody and welcome to this interior design rendering tutorial in which I'm going to show you how we can take an existing elevation view image of a church, scale everything to 1 to 50 so we can also add later dimensions to it, bring in a reference photo of an existing stained glass window, create all these individual elements we need to create then a longer version of that window. This we will screenshot, bring it into VizcomAI. And then in VizcomAI, I will show you the process of how we can take this image, create then a drawing, and then using this original image as a color reference, create a newer, sharper, high-res version of how the stained window glass could look like. Export this one, bring it back to Affinity, and then we will place everything nicely and add, as I said, the dimensions. This kind of like covers a lot about layouting, working with vectors, working with clipping masks, working also with the vector and pixel environment in Affinity, which is really great. And with all that, let's do it. But before we get started, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so you will never miss any upcoming video. And now let's really get started. Okay, let's get started. First, in Affinity, we're going to set up our document. So we go to File, New, select the letter format, 11 by 8.5, 300 dpi, 11 by 8.5, landscape, and scroll down, set up the drawing scale. And here it's important, after you entered the number, press Enter. We can use the inches from the document or specify inches here. See, these are all the units. I am a metric person, so I really prefer just only working with one unit. So like meters, centimeters, or millimeters. So in this demonstration, I will just work with inches, but then the correct dimensioning later is something we will do manually, like breaking things down into feet and inches for architectural display. Then click Create Document. If lower right corner you still see 1 to 10, then just go back to Documents, scroll down, change this value, press Enter, click OK, done. We can now bring in our reference image with the Place Tool command. Here is that image from the church, and Option or Alt key, a mouse wheel, we can zoom out a little bit. Then I scale this a little bit. I would like to crop this with the vector crop. I get pretty close to where I have to be. There and there. And then I zoom into this corner, get this close, zoom out, go to here, get close, zoom out. Actually, I was a little bit off there. Zoom out. Perfect. Then selection tool, and now you see this image is cropped. The stuff is not gone. This is just simply an interactive option to hide everything. But it makes this object nice and small. Now we need to scale this image to the correct dimension. A window is 10 feet, and from the lower edge to the bottom or upper edge to where the roof starts is 3 feet. And you also see when we zoom in and zoom out, these are really thick lines. Now this is an image as a reference, so we can try to scale this image to be pretty close, but this is not as super precise as, for example, doing this directly in a CAD program like AutoCAD. I will turn on snapping with this command up here, and then have also these options all turned on. So how do we scale this one up? We know 3 distances. One very easy way is we just go and create ourselves a small reference object. a rectangle. I do not want any fill, stroke, just to fill. And with this rectangle selected, you see this is 50 inches tall. Now this is like to scale. If I turn this off, you see it's just 1 inch. It's 50. I want that to be 3 feet. But what's 3 feet in inches? Well, 3 multiplied by 12 is 36. So you see, you can also do small equations there. Then I move this one to the lower right corner because we crop this nicely. It snaps. I can make this a little bit wider. And then this image, I just scale down till there. This starts to, yeah, line up. So bottom to this edge. We can do a test. Copy and paste, Control C, Control V on a PC, or Apple Command Control C, Control V on a Mac. Bring this up. Yep, that looks very close. One more copy. We said the inner height is 10 feet. That's 120 inches. There. This is actually really, really close, as we can see. Perfect. So this document pretty much is scale-wise correct. We can then move this around for presentation purpose if I would like to have a text block or annotations, dimensions. But the most important thing is this is now to scale, and we can create our first outline for the window. To do that, first I will select the layer with my image and make this less transparent so it's easier on my eyes. Then I will go to the ruler. If you don't see the ruler, you will have the option to turn those on under View and Show. There it is. And then also to snap to the ruler. Here is snap to guides. I mean, snapping to guides later, not the ruler. And then from the ruler, click and drag a horizontal line. There we are. We can zoom in a little bit, move this around, and yeah, this is kind of like a midpoint, for example. Then I can select the pen tool. I will zoom in here, click, middle mouse button or spacebar to move. Click here. Now I zoom out a little bit. I will hold the shift key, and you see with shift, then you can draw in vertical 45, horizontal 45 vertical steps. Click and go to the left and click. And now this point is perfectly lined up with that point. This guideline, by the way, we don't need anymore. We can just remove this. When I zoom in, I can go to the node tool. That means with shift and left mouse button, I can select these points. Click and drag, holding shift, then they only go straight down. So I make this a little bit more centered. Yeah, that's all pretty good. And then to arc this, that's very easy. You go with your mouse directly on the line, click and drag, and there we are. This point here is pretty sharp, but this is more rounded, and we're still in vector mode. We can then go to the corner tool, click and drag, and we add a fillet. There. Look at this. Nah? Nice. Okay. So we zoom out. The two left points are perfectly vertical. We can then make a copy and paste. Then we flip this over, bring this over. It should perfectly snap together so that these points are really above each other. Select both. And you see here we have two objects. we want to fuse them together. We could give this a small fill, so we see this now, and then we can use the add command that makes it now one piece. I notice without a fill, sometimes you get currently no object, it disappears, must be a bug. And the other option is also you can use the shape builder and simply click and drag, release the mouse, and there we have one object. Perfect. So this fill was just only a little helper. I don't need this one. That one can go. Beautiful. So here's actually now our window. The image I don't need anymore. From this, I would like to create now a screenshot, but ideally with a lot of pixels. So what I will do is I will go to document and say rotate 90 degrees. Then I zoom in, you see my display is wider, so I can screenshot more pixels. That's going to be very helpful later also for the AI. So there we are. Perfect. The screenshot goes into my documents folder. On your Mac, it might go onto the desktop, and on a Windows machine, you can use the snipping tool and then simply save this to your desktop. So I will now rotate this back. Very good. Before I go into the AI to create a nice rendering of the stained glass, I now need to also create kind of like the framework or the pattern for it. So for that, let's go to place our next image. Here is the photo of kind of like this window there. I will go to the pixel mode, selection tool, select all this, copy and paste, and then this I will delete. And there is now my screenshot from the window. I will zoom in a little bit. There are a few things I would like to change. So with the selection tool selected, click somewhere else, then I will kind of like remove the lower area, select the layer there. I'm just trimming this a little bit, and there, and there. And when I work with guidelines and pull the guidelines down, you see there's a little bit of a perspective, yeah, for shortening. Now, these lines are not parallel. So it's not really complicated. We can quite easily fix this. So 1 second. Looks to me I have some other stuff there. I'm just simply cleaning these areas. So when I go to the selection tool, yeah, now this is perfectly framed. Very good. We can now go to what's called here the perspective tool. But before I do this, I will add on the right side a guideline, then perspective tool. And now I can pull this one up a little bit, and I can pull this up a little bit. And you see now how these elements start to align better. Then I will create myself here a rectangle again, and then add a guideline to the center because I wanted to see if everything left and right is perfectly centered. And it pretty much looks so. Okay, good. Very good. Now, we have here something called perspective. That is kind of like a non-destructive filter. Right click and then say rasterize it. That basically now bakes it, removes that effect. It's one image now, so we can continue editing it. And I will remove all these elements here. Again, like I made the same mistake for you. make sure when you want to, with the selection tool, remove objects, have that layer selected. There. Okay, this is good. Beautiful. All those guidelines can go. Clear all. This image I will bring to here. Zoom in and make this a little bit smaller till width-wise this will start to fit in. There, I can move this up. Very difficult to see the frames of the window we created, so I lower the transparency a little bit. And now we need to do a little bit of image editing. With this layer selected, and then the selection tool, I will select myself here this element. Copy and paste. And I can go to vector, flip it, not horizontally, vertically, hold shift, move this down, and also this one should be smaller. So there you see, now we are kind of like flipping these parts. Maybe, you know, there I would like to have such a crossbar. So pixel selection, this first layer, the selection tool. I will select myself this with a little bit of the glass up above and below, copy and paste. Control D, Apple D to deselect everything. And I think there, deselect. And then this we bring down. Very nice. Yeah. Or I can copy this one, copy and paste, bring this one down, copy and paste, and then I will flip this one more time, bring this up, select both, bring them up. So here we see now this will be slightly cut. So this is now where it's up to you how you would like to blend these elements together, or maybe we just only try it this way. And we don't have such an element. This actually now here starts to line up pretty good. I have a little bit of a white line here. So to fix this, I just draw myself a very tiny selection tool with arrow keys. I can move this up and down. And then there I do a delete. Need to figure out that's that layer. Select it and delete. And then that I can move up. There it snaps. Beautiful. Same here. Very good. Okay. That's good. Now, if I want this, we could put on top, for example. Then all those I will select and make 100%. Very good. So that looks actually really quite nice. These image layers I will select. And then I would like to make a group. Where's actually group hidden? I always know the shortcuts. New group. Oh, no. Where's that? Oh, layer, new group. Okay, yeah, makes sense. There. And then those I can drag into that group. Now I would like this window frame we created, crop this group with all these images in it. That's very easy. We click and drag this right onto the vector. And there it is, beautifully cropped. We could make this a little bit wider, there and there. Ideally only symmetrical, so I don't have too much of that left and right edge frame. There we are. Perfect. So you see this works like a cookie cutter. It just clips this away. And this image, we will do a shortcut too. So I zoom in. There we are. And then now you can create the shortcut. Sorry, not a shortcut, screenshot of this. Perfect. Like this. Very good. Okay. Now to create actually a nicer version of such a stained glass, that is now when we are going to make a transition into Viscom. So see you there in a second. In Viscom, as you can see, I created a new file. I'm inside the workbench. First step will be to help the AI deal with aspect ratio of images. I will create a new image, sketch, and then select portrait. The glass window is vertical. Then I will insert my colorful glass window. We can rotate it with Shift. We snap it so it's vertical. There. I will zoom into this top here. I saw that here my pieces were a little bit off, so I exported this one more time. Let me go to Affinity for a second. So I'm here in Affinity, and when I select my group with the arrow keys, you can see you can nudge your objects up and down. And was really paying attention to that this is nicely centered. So the rest of the design is also going to be nice and even. Okay, back to Viscom. There we are. So you can do everything inside the studio if you want, or we go to the workbench. I find the workbench nicer to work with. You have a nice overview of all the steps you do, plus modify, connect this, and then we will ask it create an outline drawing and click the arrow button. Then this step will take this colorful image and create a pretty amazing outline drawing. Details are pretty close. Keep in mind, this is a very blurry image, so the outcome is actually really good. That things change a little bit is to be expected because this image is, well, very blurry. If it's a sharper image, you will get better results. We can create multiple versions and then see if there's one we particularly like or is also very close to the input image. This is actually quite nice with the dove on top there. Let's use that one. Very good. Okay, good. So the reason why we are creating this outline is now we can give that to the AI and colorize it. There are two ways how we can do this. We can add another modify command, and then we describe what we would like to see. Create a 2D photo of a stained glass window. We could describe colors, etc., and so forth. And I will simply keep it like this and hit the arrow key. And while this one is processing, I'm going to add another modify command. I will drag this one in and drag this one in. So the sequence is important. And you see, yeah, I just colorized it, no? But because it was just black and white, no reference, it didn't really know how to colorize it. The AI just did its good, best judgment. So by dragging in this first and then this as the last is the image we are going to work with, last image. Now we could say Create a 2D photo of a stained glass window. Apply the colors from image 1. And let's see how that will work. And yeah, if we compare this now, there we can see this is a really beautiful match with the colors, the tones, the details, because we worked with a cleaner outline drawing. It's much crisper than the photo. Logically here, this element changed, but this looks really wonderful. This is really nice. So this image, that's actually our final stained glass image, which now we can download, and then we bring that into Affinity. Back in Affinity, I will first go back to my normal view. Then I will drag this group out of this outline, and I would like to bring in the image we created. And I have this downloaded here. There it is. Open, place. And to make things a tick easier, very quickly, I crop this a little bit with the vector crop tool there. Same deal. Let's make this a little bit more transparent. Move it over, scale it down. Try to position it as close as possible. More scaling. Maybe with the cursor key a little bit left, right. If the snapping is in your way, you can turn snapping off, and then it is much easier to fine tune the position. We could also do the cropping a little bit more precisely, then it's even easier to fit this perfectly in. There. There we are. Okay, very good. So this new window, again, we switch back to 100% or maybe 90, so it's not so super saturated, 83 in this case, I noticed. And then we drag this onto our curve. There we are. This outline, we could add a little bit of a stroke if we want. By the way, you can have it to run aligned to the path on the inside or on the outside. That's up to you. I will go centered because in this way it nicely covers up where the image ends. This is something we can move onto the side. Then this cannot be printed. We don't see it anymore, but you could go to view and turn off clip to canvas. Then you see all your assets you have outside your page. We can turn on our elevation view, double click. We can rename this and then copy and paste. Let's turn snapping on, move this and hold shift. And one more time, position this nicely. I tried to make this video not too long. There. That can go over a notch. Also, and notch over. There. Yeah. Wonderful. There we are. This is actually our dummy. We could call this one raw and hide it. If we now would like to add also dimensions to it, I can quickly show you how we can add the dimension on the right side. Then the same will be for the width, for example. We will turn on snapping. I will add myself here a small guideline, and then another one here, and one a little bit kind of like in the center. So shorter distances, full distance. And now with the pen tool, maybe I will start with 1 point. And from there, hold shift, click somewhere else. Select this line, copy and paste. I bring this down to there, align this. Okay. Copy and paste, bring this down. There we are. Very nice. Then I will use the pen tool, and from here, click, hold shift, go down to there. That is the other line. This is, for example, the one that's total. Copy and paste, go to here, and then that one, I go to there. Yeah, and this is kind of like the way also how you would draft and dimension things by hand. Here, these lines I will bring back. So they are a little bit off. And we could even do tricks like here I have this distance and there. So that goes to there. And then here, these two lines I scale. Oh, look at that. Now till it matches this. So it's kind of like a little trick. All these guidelines can go. There we are. These lines are very thick. So 0.5 or 0.25. We would like to have architectural tick. Here's the stroke. And there it is. We want this maybe to be 400%. So we will see it based on how big you make this. This will get bigger or smaller. You also have arrows, etc. And then we will do the same for the other side. 800. We can lock those, by the way. So if I set this now to 500, you see the other one updates too. Okay, very good. So with these dimension lines now there, we can add the dimensioning to it. What I would like to show first, however, is because this drawing was set up to a scale 1 to 50, I can click also these lines and read out the length. So 47.5, this is 237.7. Again, everything was drawn very quickly, and we're dealing here also with pretty low resolution image, so these dimensions aren't as CAD accurate. You also have your own DWG from which you can just read out the dimension. But even we have here a measurement tool, and with that we can measure, and that should be around 3 feet 36. That should be 3 feet. That is also nearly 36 now. So it's actually pretty useful. Then you can just measure something and write something down. Now to write the dimensions, we can use the artistic text tool. I think that's the easiest one here. This is 3 feet. I click and then I press spacebar, 3 feet spacebar. And then we can rotate this. I zoom in a little bit. Then we bring this to here, and that looks pretty terrible. That's because there's no white background behind the 3. And there's one now. You see, it's that easy. So that's the highlight tool. Click on that. And there we have it. And the spacebar before and after created that nice tiny gap. So 237. That actually should be around 20 feet. So 240. We can select this, copy and paste, double click, and then 240. Sorry, 24 feet. Otherwise, it's a pretty tall ceiling. On this line, you see it finds the midpoint and also vertically, horizontally aligns beautifully. There we are. If we very quickly want to add also information about, for example, the height of the window and everything, again, now this is just, let me show you, beautifully easy. Copy and paste. This goes down. That should be there. Copy and paste. I will do a guideline, so simply it's easier. Very good. And then a guideline to there. Copy and paste. Bring this down. That guideline now I remove. It's kind of like a ruler. And then this one I bring up. Copy and paste. This top one goes to there. Copy and paste. And the top one goes down to there. And look, I don't really have to write my individual architectural ticks. This actually is wrong. I realized that should be 4. That's 4 feet because this one here, that is 3 feet. Copy and paste there. You can also select 2 objects and then center them. There. And then this should be, yeah, 10 feet. There we are. And there. And then if your text, for example, is too big, now you can select these text boxes. This is all set to 12. We could set these to 10. You can format everything. You can change color of the text and whatnot. So you can style this perfectly the way you need it. I forgot also to talk a little bit about how to sort our layers. These objects for the dimensioning, I all would like to put onto a new layer. So I can select them all and then put them onto that layer, double click. I can call that dimension. And then this way I can turn the complete layer on and off. I can also create one layer for the 4 windows. Window, there we are. Very good. There, those can be turned on and off. The other one is outside. And I also have here this tiny issue. I totally forgot to point this out. So I will create myself here a ring without the architectural tick. There we are. Then we make this wider. Try to match this outline really good. Perfect. And then that circle and the window we select, and then we go subtract. And basically it was cut away, as you can see. And then with this, I reached the end of what I wanted to show everybody. As a recap, now you learned how in Affinity Photo you can just create a more complete and longer stained glass window, bring this into VizCom to create a better AI rendering, and then we bring everything back into Affinity Studio, compose everything, add dimensions, and finalize everything. And all that, I just would like to point this out again, in a drawing that is to scale, not in a CAD program. And that's it.